And here we are, the last day of the 2013 U.S. Open, day 15, an official Monday final for the first time ever, and one match left, a one-match day, the only one. We really had all of our finals on Sunday, so we just have one match left, a men's single, and it comes down to one classic. It's going to be the 37th time they've met, Novak Djokovic, Rafael Nadal. Djokovic had a big streak against him, had his great 2011 year, struggled a little bit in 2012, a little bit more, and then has really struggled even more this year. Nadal missed all of 2012, or a lot of it with an injury. Came back really strong in 2013, an amazing comeback. Is undefeated on hard courts, which is another amazing fact, though I remember when I was young, back in the day, 2004, 2003, and I first saw Nadal. And I thought, I told my buddy, the first thing I said to Chris Woods, who got me into the tennis world, was, I think this kid Nadal can be best on the hard courts. They say he's a clay courter, but I love him on hard courts. I just thought he could grow into a very powerful hitter and aggressive big hitter and still do all that defensive movement on the way the hard courts were already playing, even in the 2000s. And they're even a little slower now. So, I didn't take into account his grit and fight and strategies on clay. I didn't take that into account. I didn't take into account how the clay bounces and is higher, it's a little faster these days, and less top dressing. And there's a lot of little details, and that works for his spin. And I didn't take into account how he's going to have injury problems on the hard court stuff that tears up the knee more. Well, anyway, so far this year, I guess because he had a long break, and then he had a big break after Wimbledon because he got knocked out right away, he's really shown no signs of injury. Maybe his knee's a little sore, and we don't know, or something is sore, but he has no wraps on his leg. He hasn't said anything. He's not going to say anything anyway, I don't think. But, we don't see any wraps or anything, so we have to pretty much assume he's healthy. He looked like the fittest guy on the men or the women's tour going into the U.S. Open, even more than Serena, who had been dealing with a cold and then some abdominal issue and some other issues. So, no, Nadal looked incredibly fit going in, and he still looks fit. He has not had a tough draw. It has not been tough for him, and he hasn't played a lot of tennis. It wasn't like Gasquet wasn't not a pushover, neither was Kohlschreiber, but it's been a pretty easy ride for Rafa. A lot of the giants that I thought would give him trouble, like Isner and even Raonic later and everything, they fell out of it. The conditions were a little too slow, and they were lively balls, would have been great for those giants, but the conditions played out pretty darn slow. Even the first week when it was warmer, it was so humid and a lot of rain. So, anyways, here we are. Today the conditions again are going to be pretty windy. Maybe not quite as bad, but if anything, the wind probably would help Nadal. And either way, both guys will probably make adjustments. Nadal plays a more aggressive game now, so I think the wind may actually not favor him because he's playing more aggressive. So it might actually favor Djokovic a bit. The temperature is pretty cool, but the sun's shining. So we're going to have middle of the road, but with the wind on the slower side again. This isn't going to really mean much to me as far as these two guys. This comes down to who's more physically fit and mentally in shape. And Nadal's the guy on fire. I mean, he's the guy I said was the favorite. Everybody knew that. I predicted him to win it all over Murray. But my wild card was really Isner and Del Potro, because I was liking the Giants with these new balls, but the weather didn't work out anything like I thought it would. I didn't expect so much wind and the rain and the cold, and I just figured it'd be more medium conditions, like relatively warm, not some wind, not too much humidity, some humidity, whatever. But it was really a wacky 2 weeks. So those guys all went out. The Giants went out of the picture, and here we are again, Nadal, and then Murray had his own struggles. Just trying to defend the title and also coming off the big Wimbledon win. So here we are, Nadal Djokovic again. Djokovic he's favored in the matchup. The matchup favors him like the matchup for Nadal against Federer favors Nadal. But Nadal has made adjustments. Federer never did make those adjustments. I always felt Federer could use a little more patience against Nadal and work the point a little more, especially on the big points. But he never did get into a different kind of rhythm like that. Nadal has made adjustments. Everybody knew he needed to be more aggressive. He is more aggressive. But here's the thing that concerns me even more. Even with his more aggression, that would just make it closer, but I still think that Djokovic would have the edge. but Djokovic needs to be physically at least 90% or above, and I'm not sure he is. Now, he did play a tough one with Wawrinka, and he's battle-tested now, and he came through in the fifth set, and he looked good in the fifth set, and he says he feels physically fit. I believe all of that. And he hasn't played too much tennis here this tournament. He had an easy draw until Wawrinka. But his service speed is not as high as it was the last 2 years. And his power on his backhand and even on his forehand, his overall power, strength, has not been as strong. He's a little bit weak. He's still a great retriever, runs down all the balls, a great returner on service returns, and he's good. He's good strategically and mentally. I think he's as confident as he's ever been. He's very confident. It's just there's a lack of power. Now, it's something in his body, and it started in 2012. All that rough tennis with Nadal, maybe all the rough tennis in general. I think his off-court training is different, and I think it helped him a lot at one point. But now it's kind of he's kind of in that area where he needs to make another adjustment to get himself physically up in that area to beat Nadal. And here's what I think might happen. A couple things. Djokovic could come out and win that first set because he is battle-tested. Wawrinka's really set him up, and it may really, take Nadal, off guard. Just like Wawrinka took Djokovic off guard. I know Nadal's been playing great, but you have to consider the two opponents on each side of the net. He's not playing by himself. And I don't think he's going to be ready maybe for what he's going to see from Djokovic, even though he's played him a lot. You can't simulate it in your mind. You have to be ready from actual experience, and I mean during the tournament. I don't mean months ago. I mean 2 days ago. And that's my opinion. We will see. Maybe not, but they'll both maybe be a little nervous. And Nadal does not like to play Djokovic. He knows he's a bad matchup for him, but he may even come out super aggressive and be making too many errors right away. Nadal, I'm talking about. We will see. But I think Djokovic may win a real tight first set, 7-6, and then Nadal lifts his game. He'll be able to do that. Starts finding the right rhythm that he'll need to play Djokovic. This isn't Gasquet. This isn't Cole Schreiber. It's not Robredo. He's going to pump it up and maybe take the second set. And then I see him maybe having an easy third set as Djokovic starts to wane a little bit again physically. And then in the fourth set, I see Djokovic fighting for his life because he's not going to go out without a fight. And Nadal maybe gets a little uptight at the end of the fourth set, with everything, with all the pressure, just of the big year he's had, and maybe even just a little letdown mentally. And maybe Djokovic comes out on top in that fourth set, and in a great fourth set. And I don't know, am I calling this like the French Open, or did he tank the fourth set? I can't remember. There was a tank that Djokovic had at the French Open just because he was exhausted. But anyway, that could be kind of happen here in the third set maybe. But anyway, Djokovic pulls out that big fourth set, fights really hard in the fifth set, some nerves from Nadal again. It's a shaky match in the fifth set. But finally, the physicality of Nadal, he will be fitter at the end. And also the Wawrinka match maybe wears on Djokovic a little bit near the end, and Nadal pulls this out in 5. The other thing that could happen is all the pressure maybe starting to get to Djokovic mentally. I saw little signs of that in Montreal, Djokovic mentally feeling it. And maybe, it just crumbles on him. He loses in 3 straight, or he loses 3 straight after the first set win. Who knows? Maybe he comes out and he's the one who's extra nervous because Nadal's in such great form, and Nadal gets up that early break and holds on to it. So it doesn't matter that Djokovic is battle-tested. But I do think that match with Wawrinka is going to really, if anything, that's going to help Djokovic. Look, if it was just straight up, not a Djokovic match, Djokovic has a matchup edge, and also he's battle-tested with Wawrinka. If it wasn't for that, I would say Nadal hands down, it wouldn't be close. But because of the match with Wawrinka, plus Novak does have some advantages when he matches up with Nadal, the way he matches up. But again, even his big matchup where he has a good backhand, his backhand's not as strong this year. It's powerful again. So, that will be, he won't be hurt so much by Nadal over there, but he won't make inroads maybe as much as he used to in 2011 and part of 2012. But he did win Monte Carlo, remember. So Djokovic, and he looked like at one point he was going to win the French. So it's there. It's there for the taking. And he did take a set in Montreal, so it's there. If Djokovic plays his best, he beats Nadal. Even if Nadal's form, he beats Nadal. I believe that. But I do not think we're going to see Djokovic at his best for enough. If he can play his best for a large part of the match, he can still pull this out in 5 or 4. But if he plays his best only maybe 60% of the match, Nadal, or 50%. I mean, Nadal's going to take he's going to take it. He's a maniac. He's a fighter. He's gonna do what it takes. So I have to go with Nadal. I think it's a toss-up. Again, like I said in the women's final, please don't put money on this unless you like taking chances, because this is a crazy one to call. It looks like it's all Nadal, but I don't think it's that simple. Nadal has a little bit of a mental problem too with Djokovic, just like Federer has a mental issue with Nadal. It's a little bit in his head. So, and if he loses that first set, it could get tricky to win that second set. If Nadal goes down 2-0, he could still win it, even going down 2-0. But, no matter what, it's going to be a fight. If it's 4 sets, Nadal wins. Even if it's 3 sets, Nadal wins. It's going to be a fight. But I think there's going to be some issues, some points where Djokovic's body is going to fail him again. A little bit on the power, a little bit on the fatigue, a little bit of lack of a power, a little bit of fatigue, miss a couple little points here and there. But maybe next year he gets on a streak again beating Nadal. I wouldn't be surprised, but maybe not this year. Or maybe this is the match where he starts his new streak on Nadal. He will make adjustments eventually with his physical and other things and beat Nadal again. But I'm just not going to call it for this match. So I'll go with Nadal in a very tough one, maybe an incredible 5-setter. I'll go with my first thing that I said. Djokovic wins the first set, Nadal wins the next 2. Nadal's trying to serve out the match in the 4th set, blows it. Djokovic takes that tiebreaker, goes back and forth in the 5th set a little bit, and then Nadal sees it through at the end.